Okay, it's looking like the numbers are stabilising. So good afternoon and welcome to this ACEN Critical Conversation, How Can WIL Save the Planet? My name's Narelle Patton and I work in WIL at Charles Sturt University on Wiradjuri country. And I'd like to start this meeting with an acknowledgement of the traditional owners of the lands on which we are meeting today and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. I pay my respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to any First Nations colleagues present in the meeting today. So to start this session, we have a guest presenter, Dr. Claire Powell, who will spend 10 minutes providing an overview of today's topic, how can WIL save the planet? We'll then break out into small groups in breakout rooms, and each group will have a facilitator who will encourage discussion around the topic. And we encourage you to share your experiences and thoughts in these sessions, and they'll last for about 30 minutes. And I'll just quickly introduce you now to our group facilitators. So if the group facilitators can just wave, Liz Bracken and Beata Mueller, Kylie Twyford and Julia Caldecott. Great, thank you. After we have our discussions in the breakout rooms, we'll come back into the main room to share your discussions and insights. Now, just some housekeeping, just to let you know that this session is being recorded. And if you have any problems with your tech, you can log out and return back to the same URL. Or you can wait for an email for instructions. In the main room, we will have Bonnie Dean, who is going to be assisting anyone who might have issues as well. So hopefully everything will run quite smoothly. So it is now my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Claire Powell, Workplace Learning and Teacher Performance Assessment Coordinator in the Faculty of Arts and Education at Charles Sturt University, to provide her insights around answering the question, how can WIL save the planet?
Thanks, Narelle. Can you see the screen?
Yes, it's perfect, Claire.
Yep. Great. Okay. Hi, everyone. I don't know if I'll answer the question, but I'll certainly prompt conversation. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to discuss how WIL can save the planet and to explore WIL's role in sustainability. I was developing this presentation during the record-breaking rain that pounded the East Coast, causing devastation for so many people and perhaps people here, and extend our thoughts. So this reinforced for me the importance of this topic. It's a somewhat ambitious title, but perhaps it's a question many of us are asking about different aspects of our lives. And it's a massive topic. And I just want to make the caveat that in 10 minutes, I can only skim the surface and hope to prompt conversation about an aspect of WIL which is both underreported and underpublished, but also under enacted. And I hope this conversation is a step towards shining a light on sustainability practices that are and could be occurring in WIL. I also want to acknowledge the words of the Wiradjuri people on whose unceded land Charles Sturt University was founded and share their aspiration of Yindi Yamara Wanangana, the aim for us all to learn the wisdom of respectfully living well in a world worth living in. I think these words are really apt for this presentation. And I also acknowledge the Darug and Gundungurra people whose land I'm speaking on from today in Katoomba in the Blue Mountains. So our question of how WIL can save the planet does not exist in a vacuum. It's nested within some profound existential questions about the role of education in these unprecedented times, the role of WIL in a world facing multiple challenges, catastrophes and opportunities, our own personal beliefs and responses to challenges. And the only question I'll answer now, what do we mean by sustainability? And doing a literature review of sustainability in WIL, the term sustainability is most often used in WIL literature to refer to whether WIL practices or programs are able to be maintained or are ongoing or viable. However, sustainability used in the context of this presentation is far more contested and complex. And for our purposes today, I'm using the broadly accepted United Nations definition. Sustainability means meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs environmentally, socially, and economically. And these three quotes speak to the importance and the many dimensions of this topic. Irina Bokova, former Director General of UNESCO, first woman Director General, says, education has a catalytic impact on the well-being of individuals and the future of our planet. And in a study in 2020, Taylor and Murray found that as extreme climate events continue to increase globally, there has been a corresponding increase in young people's climate anxiety and mental health issues. And Andriotti from Canada challenges us to have a more robust conversation about our discipline's complicity in the reproduction of unsustainability. So one widely used sustainability framework, which you're probably familiar with, is Agenda 30 and the Sustainable Development Goals, which were ratified in 2015 by the United Nations, including Australia. The stated aim of the goals is to secure a sustainable, peaceful, prosperous, and equitable life on Earth for everyone now and in the future. As you can see, the goals are wide-ranging, including ending poverty, addressing social needs such as education, health, social protection, and job opportunities, while tackling climate change and environmental protection. So they give a good overview of the breadth of sustainability. However, it needs to be emphasised that sustainable development is not a neutral term because it's situated within a paradigm that privileges economic growth as a developmental path. And in fact, I'm choosing not to use the term sustainable development for this reason. And if I had more time, I'd explore other frameworks as well, such as regeneration and degrowth. But many universities have taken the 2030 agenda on board and incorporated its principles and values into their goals, policies, and activities. And it's suggested that Agenda 30, the SDGs, is an opportunity for universities to take a holistic and transformative approach to sustainable development. And also I found, as I was reading literature on work integrated learning and sustainability, that the SDGs were predominantly used as lenses for investigating this. So goal 4, quality education. As a country that subscribes to the SDGs, it commits us to goal 4 and target 4.7, which is by 2030, ensure that all learners acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development. And as you can see in the definition of education for sustainable development, this can be directly transferable to the WIL context. So imagine if WIL was guided by the principles that learners are empowered to take informed decisions and responsible actions for environmental integrity, economic viability, and a just society for present and future generations. As you can see in the non-exhaustive list on this slide, universities express a commitment to sustainability through a range of different mechanisms. I conducted a small research project in teacher education at my university recently, and I was looking at how our sustainable practices graduate learning outcomes, which you might refer to as graduate attributes or capabilities at your institutions. I was looking at how they were applied in professional experience placements, and I found that there was no systematic or explicit application of this graduate learning outcome, which was partly what led me on the path to suggesting this presentation. Many employers expect sustainability literate graduates, but whether students acquire this literacy and are able to apply it during work placements is very much dependent on the context and orientation of their degrees and institutions. And this is something that you'll be able to discuss shortly in the breakout rooms. Sustainability applies to every single discipline area, and this table shows just some of the examples of curricular themes that may be more or less relevant to each disciplinary area and which could be used and adapted as entry points to develop sustainability education and through WIL placements. So as you can see, looking at this list, which also is very non-exhaustive, there are many possibilities. And I know some of these slides have lots of information on them. I apologise, but they will be available if you'd like to look at them in more detail later. So Wall and Hindley, who wrote an entry on work integrated learning for sustainability education and seem to be experts in the field, define work integrated learning for sustainability education as applying WIL pedagogies to sustainable development challenges. And the WIL pedagogies are listed here. They've drawn on research and their own experience to develop the model shown here of 4 different ways of embedding sustainability education through work integrated learning. They describe piggybacking in the top left quadrant as integrating sustainability education into existing curricula through work-based learning. So an example of this is incorporating a narrow focus on a particular aspect of sustainability, such as assessing the life cycle of products in a market placement during a WIL experience. Digging deep on the right-hand side refers to creating new disciplinary specific sustainability education. Again, the focus might be narrow, but it's specifically designed. So for example, in a response to Cyclone Yasi at Mission Beach in Queensland, new university community partnerships were created, and this enabled WIL students to work with the community organisations to develop locally and ecologically driven projects. Mainstreaming on the bottom left refers to integrating broadly focused sustainability education through existing WIL structures. So for example, sustainability knowledge and skills are embedded and integrated as core competencies, and then they're assessed during work-based learning experiences. And then the 4th approach, focusing, refers to creating new cross-disciplinary sustainability education curricula. So the emphasis here is a broad focus of sustainability and the development of new structures. So for example, the creation of a new interdisciplinary course, which includes urban planning, communications and marketing, and draws on innovative teaching strategies and experiences applied to WIL. So these are some of the key competencies and features of embedding sustainability through work integrated learning. I've pulled them out of a lot of different texts that I read, and you can see a typo, futures visioning, sorry. Although many of these are transferable when they are framed within WIL for sustainability, they can be more purposefully and contextually applied. They also provoke possibilities for assessment of sustainability in WIL, which is not an aspect I've had time to cover in this presentation. One of the things to note here is interdisciplinarity. So knowledge still tends to be siloed in disciplines in educational and professional environments. However, integrating disciplines can increase the ability to understand the complex challenges the world currently faces, and problem solving is facilitated through blending concepts from different disciplines. So I suggest that embracing interdisciplinarity is a rich challenge for WIL. Just a couple of examples. The Australian Museum partnered with UNSW students undertaking a practice of work subject. The Bachelor of Science art degree students were asked to research, plan and present 3 projects that could help the museum to better engage with young adults about climate change. At the end of the project, the museum stated the students brought invaluable new perspectives to the problem we're trying to address, and we believe each of their project ideas has the potential to be a success. In another example, which has been recently published by Cordoba and Bandar, RMIT partnered with the Australian Association of Social Workers to undertake a Sustainable Development Goals WIL placement, during which the students reviewed the association's policies, actions and their contributions to the SDGs, and they made recommendations. Students learned about social work policy practice and sustainability. And a WIL climate change project conducted by WAL within a UK university created new institutional level resources for climate literacy, and in the process unintentionally became a catalyst for wider institutional cultural change. There's a reference list at the end of the presentation if anyone's interested in reading more about these. So, how can WIL save the planet? Over to you. In the breakout rooms, we have these questions. In what ways is WIL a relevant space for progressing sustainability amongst student, staff and partners and stakeholders? Is it included in your institution's WIL ethos and programs? How might sustainability be integrated into your WIL ethos and programs? And what barriers might be encountered? Whose responsibility is it to progress sustainability? And what's the role of our partners and stakeholders? And is it sufficient to start with small steps, or do we need urgent transformation? Just for some inspiration, Greta Thunberg says, the moment we decide to fulfill something, we can do anything. And just a note, I'm really interested in continuing this conversation and developing an inventory and showcasing examples of WIL and sustainability. So please make contact. Thank you for listening.